Hello.
Hola. Hola. Hey, Miko, I see Dov and I see also Annette is joined. Feel free to turn on your videos. Thanks for joining and being on time. There was almost a dozen people who signed up, so let's just take a moment and let them join.
Yeah. My wife Maya might join too, but she's a little bit late. Is that okay?
Great. Thank you.
Das sind die Zen Peacemakers.
Hi, Kathleen.
Hi, Nico.
Okay,
Hello.
good. I can hear you now. Annette, did I hear you speak?
Yes, hello.
Okay, hello. Yeah.
I'm just ill, and for that I don't like to switch the camera on.
Yes, that's completely fine. Thank you.
Okay.
You could infect us by your picture.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Okay, so thanks for joining on time. It's 2 minutes after our starting time, and we're expecting several more people. So maybe let's just take the moment to just settle and wait in silence for a couple more minutes. You can close your eyes, and if you have a meditation practice, you can just dive in or just feel your body on your chair. Hi, welcome, Maureen.
Hello.
Hi, we're just waiting on people to join, so thanks for joining. Feel free to turn on or keep your video off as you'd prefer.
Well, the camera on my PC is not working at the moment, so I don't have voice.
Okay. Great. And welcome, Monica. We can't hear you yet, but we saw that you joined. So we're just taking a moment of silence to just let more people join, and we'll start in a couple of minutes. Hi, Monica. I can see you now.
Okay.
Great. I can hear you now.
Wow. Me too.
So I was just saying that we were just taking just about a minute to just sit a little bit, and a few more people may join us, and we'll start in a minute.
I'm going to go see if I can find another camera so that I can connect.
Right. And as you're breathing and just settling where you are, and you know, including that whole experience of your self, your weight on your chair, and you're feeling your mental state. You can hear different sounds. You can probably see some of us on our videos, and I see Ando just join us. And if your eyes are closed or your eyes are open, try to just expand a little bit your sense of global connection in terms of where the people that you're connecting with are from. Just now I can see we have people from Finland, from Germany, across the US. So just try to hold that. Spirits connecting from different parts of the planet. Different times of the day. We experience different weathers. I find it's useful for me to just bring a moment of gratitude to what, and everybody who just allowed me to take this hour so I can connect and grow my sense of connection, whether it's people at work or family. The countless unknowns that allow this technology to connect us. The resources of the planet that we're using right now to allow this connection. Thank you. And if your eyes are closed, feel free to open them up and just kind of take everybody in. We may still have a few people joining, but we'll just begin. So thank you so much. Thanks so much for joining, for being on time. I'll just say a few words just to begin with. I think we may have a few people who are connecting for the first time. First, just to, can people just give a thumbs up if you hear me okay? If the sound is good, if the volume, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Rami Efal. I'm the executive director of Zen Peacemakers, and you know, many of you, some of you have been connected with Zen Peacemakers for a long time, and some of you may be newer. So just, you know, a word about what this is about. And you know, about 30 years ago, our founder, Bernie Glassman, had this idea of really immersing practitioners in the world, in action, and in practice. He took that vision to the streets, working with the homeless, working in conflict zone, in refugee camps. And he set both an example and also a very simple methodology of what he called the 3 tenets, which is really what we're basing everything that we offer on. Very simple 3 principles: not knowing, dropping into a moment fresh, new eyes, allowing to be surprised, bearing witness to what we see in that place. It includes everything: ourselves, others, all experience of feelings, thoughts, spirit, energies. And then the action that comes out of that, which is natural and compassionate and inclusive. Sometimes it can be harsh, and sometimes it can be firm. it's unmediated. So this is these were the principles that. Hi, Maya, thanks for joining. So he put that forward, those principles, and even this meeting came out of those 3 principles. About a year ago, we launched a new model of our membership and really put our internationality in the center of our offering, realizing that practice is prevalent everywhere. Social action is now really prevalent everywhere. There's something with connecting all of these dots, which is the practice, which is the social action, and which is the internationality of the fact that there's so many countries that are represented here. And that itself is an access point to interconnectedness. And we have a really unique opportunity, and Bernie and the previous incarnation of Zen Peacemakers really developed this international community. So this is something that we're really encouraging our members to develop, and also us as staff to create ways for this international being to come to life. So one way that we thought of trying is to create these clusters, which are really just ways for members to coalesce around. Not necessarily a theme or a subject, but more around a calling, around how is it that we're called to show up in the world and respond to the world. So this is one of those clusters, and you responded to that, so I'm very grateful for that. We have about 75 minutes, so about an hour and 15 minutes to go. Sometimes we facilitate this as council. I found that sometimes there's a little bit more of a dynamic meetings that request something that is a little bit more flexible. So we will not do a formal council the way some of you may be familiar with it. It will be great just to keep the guidelines though with us, just as we speak. And if you've never done council before, the guidelines are really simple, and they're not rules. There's just a way to that we found that it just facilitates connection and respect, and also give life to something new when we talk. And we usually just speaking from the heart, speaking from a personal experience, listening from the heart. So when somebody speaks, you just listen, and you don't necessarily engage in your judgment or opinions about that. That is too something that we bear witness to. But you just really maintain that presence and spontaneity, and really trying to listen to what the essence of what they're saying. And if you are speaking, because we have a big group, which is nice, it would be great that we will all have the opportunity to speak on a few occasions. So we often speak about going to essence and being lean. It doesn't mean that you need to be short or you need to be cut yourself off. It actually may mean that you may want to take a moment of silence and just connect with what you want to say, and then deliver that. And just acknowledging that there's other people who may want to speak, and we want to have time for that for everyone. And oftentimes we maintain confidentiality in council because we want to allow us safety in the space. But these cluster meetings are really beneficial for everybody, also those people who couldn't join. And part of joining these meetings, and you being on them, please agree that we'll, by staying on them, that you agree that we'll record them and we'll make them offer to others. We actually had a few people from Australia and New Zealand who wanted to join, but the time differences were challenging for them. So this is a great offering also just for people to be able to see later. So these are the guidelines. And you are all responded to the cluster for artists. And I can I think the artist cluster is one of the first few that I thought would be great to bring forward. There's so much, the principles of creativity, the place of not knowing, it's just so pregnant and so full of potential for conversation and just hearing each other's experiences. So I'm really excited about this particular meeting, so thank you. So I would love even just to begin and just to kind of have everybody's voices start to chip in. Maybe just what I'll do is let's do just a quick check-in. Raise your hand. I'll give you the mic. Just say your name, where you're calling from, maybe just a little bit of what you're doing. And we can do that as more of a quick round, and then we'll go into more of a conversation. This is really just to kind of start gathering our voices. So we can take a moment. And Maureen and Annette, because we don't see your video, that's totally fine. I'll just invite you to just jump in and if you'd like to share.
Okay. My name is Maureen and I'm from Northern Ireland. However, right now I'm in South Wales in the UK, and I've done a lot of things in my life, but right now I'm teaching English on a contract basis, and I'm also a part-time artist. That's why I joined this group, and I'm trying to do more in the arts, and I find that I need to belong to a group to get myself motivated to actually do more, and that's why I'm here. And hello to everybody.
Hello.
Great, welcome.
Hello.
Okay, I can continue if you want.
Go ahead, Monica.
Okay. Hello, I'm very pleased, delighted, glad to be here in this international artist circle. I feel honored to be part of it. Zen Peacemakers artist circle, wonderful. My heart is singing with all the terms in it. And it is singing since 2011 when I had my jukai and I had to wear it, this beautiful thing. and I'm calling from Bonn, former capital of Germany, sitting in my tiny temple, I call it, with 6 or 7 seats. And I'm seeing myself as an artist since long. As a live artist. Then I became a freelance artist in writing, creative writing, and I'm earning my bread and my rent with it, with this kind of writing, which is more like intuitive writing. And then I see my art, my personal, let's say, personification or so of art in any kind of dialogue. So I love dialogue with reality, with intimacy, with people, with beings, with myself, with God, if you want, or the potential, the formless. So this is something where the 3 tenets are very, very close to my heart. And as you hear rightly, I also regard Zen and Zen peacemaking as an art, such as the art of dying as well. So I feel just belonging and curious and happy after a full day with some tensions. And I just let go them into Mother Earth, or I try to. And I'm curious of my peers to listen to them. Thank you.
Thanks, Monica.
May I continue? Do you hear me?
Yes, Annette, please go ahead.
Yes, I'm Annette from Hamburg in Germany, and I just discovered the Zen Peacemakers, and I was very excited because I thought maybe this is the group which I longed for, but I'm not. I do not know a lot of the Zen Peacemakers. And the meeting from the artist, this is something what, I like it very much, because it's my dream to do more. I do upcycling art, and I want to share it with other people. And so I have not so many time for my art, but I think and I want to have more and more time for this in my life, and it should be a bigger part in my life. And for me, it's very important to share it, to make art projects with other people, and to tell something with the projects.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Annette, and welcome.
Thank you.
I forgot to mention that if anybody doesn't want to speak or doesn't want to, just wants to observe or listen and take it in, that's completely fine too.
My name is Dove. I'm calling from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the United States. I guess I've never said out loud I'm an artist, so I feel like, yeah, I'm an artist. And when I hit 60, which was about almost 9 years ago now, I decided this was my decade to write. And so I wrote for the last maybe 7.5 years, from 60 to 67. And now I've sort of stopped writing, and I've taken on, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not sure what I'm doing. I'm living in pop art. My living room and dining room has become pop art, and it's painted, and I'm working on. One of my kids was recently at the Tate in Liverpool and sent me a picture of the floor at the Tate that's vinyl, like duct tape floor, and I started making these duct tape panels that 2 feet by 2 feet, like smaller than a meter by a meter, and I'm going to hang them in my living room, and I'm just having a great time with duct tape and art, and yeah, I'm playing. I guess that's it. I'm playing. So I'm an artist who's playing, which I guess that's what artists should do, is play.
Yes.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Maija. I'm calling from Finland, and we have this thing here in Helsinki, which is the capital of Finland. We have the Peacemakers Helsinki, like small, tiny affiliate group, and that's my husband Mikko, who is there, and we kind of roll these Helsinki Peacemakers Finland together with 2 other people. So we are quite of the tiny group, but we are doing great things. And I'm a composer and a singer and a vocal coach. So I've been basically doing that with all my life. So as an artist, I'm very interesting to meet other artists. So hello to everybody.
Hi, Mirja.
Hello.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Hi. I can go next. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm Ando, or Kinneret, and I'm in Santa Fe, New Mexico right now. And snowing. Again, we've had a lot of snow this year. It's been it's about 10:30, and it's been a very full morning. So just minutes before the call, someone who inspects a program that I run just showed up at our workplace, and I checked that I handed that off so I could be on this call, and I'm feeling a lot of gratitude to my colleague who just jumped into that, so that I could be here, and so yeah, just feeling really grateful to hear all of you and all the places you're from and what is here now for you. And for me, making art, it began when I was a little child, and I don't even, it was many, many years before I even ever used those words to describe what I did in the world. And now what it looks like is painting mostly with watercolor, a little bit with acrylic and mixed media, but a lot of writing. And I also help hold ceremony, like wilderness, rites of passage. And the way that we stitch the ceremony together with just different elements feels so much an art. And some of you spoke to some of that. Yeah, ephemeral land-based art is also part of what art is for me right now. Thanks.
Mm.
Hey everybody, I'm Kathleen from Germany. I'm in the same town as Monica is, in Bonn. And it's 6:30 in the evening, turning dark, moon rising, nice evening-ish. And I'm pretty tuned into our meetings. I was looking forward because I had 2 other Zoom meetings today with people from the field, so to say. So I feel it's a wonderful privilege to have a day full of, a bunch of peacemakers from different layers of interconnectedness. So that's beautiful. And yeah, I felt drawn to the artist cluster meeting because I'm trying to live into not being, but kind of being an artist or being art, or kind of embodying, maybe more like embodying the creative possibilities of my own life pathway. And so in a more narrow sense, my arts are also writing and calligraphy, which I'm studying as the art of writing in a way for me, part of art of writing. And also clowning, the word was playful. So as I tend to be a bit too earnest about things, I also start playing with myself and you, hopefully too. So thanks. And actually, I would appreciate if everybody else who's not speaking could mute mute their mics, so then we don't have so many sounds around. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Mikko, yes, from Helsinki, Finland. I'm very pleased to see so many familiar faces here. I'm a practicing artist, but I've also done a doctorate degree on prehistoric art, and that has taken me to many corners of the world. And now I have a doctorate in arts, and I also hold an affiliate position at the Human Evolutionary Department at Harvard University. But yeah, and and I try to dedicate as much time to making art, but it's kind of difficult nowadays, and I guess I should do it more. There's an exhibition now coming up, and I'm putting up 2 very small ink drawings from Auschwitz, actually. And I guess how my Zen practice connects to making art began about 2012, when I decided to start on a Zen practice. And some years later, I came across with the John Didalory's book, and it really made a huge impact on me, and also my wife. And we kind of like started to kind of think as Zen as some sort of artistic practice, and kind of like practice that might actually be very fruitful to combine. But some time later after that, I came across with Bernie's work, and it really terrified me, and also because noticing this kind of like fear that his writing rose in me, I kind of decided that this must be something really special, and kind of dive deeper into that. And my teacher is Frank de Walle from Belgium, and he's an artist as well. So I've been really privileged kind of practicing under him and finding more ways into diving deeper on connections of Zen and making art. Yeah. And also clowning. That's an important part too. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Great to just get bigger and better sense. I already kind of picked up on all kinds of themes and ideas. But before, maybe I'll just say a bit about myself and how I got excited about this particular meeting. I think this is the first 3 years of my life where my identity as an artist is not at the forefront. Now that I'm in this particular role and with Zen Peacemakers, but I've just always been an artist, and it actually, there's a sense of part mourning and part amusement when people say, "Oh, you can draw," because I realize, oh yeah, it's just my creativity and my way of creating things shifted in form. But this is really how I got into practice. Drawing for me was, since being a teenager, was a refuge. It was a shelter. It was a way for me to go inwards. It was a way for me to engage my heart and my thoughts. And it was also the first few experiences of when being immersed in the act of creating, which was drawing, to start having questions about the nature of my mind. As I was drawing and as I was moving forward with something, and there was the whole relationship with the voices that I'm hearing in my head started to change. And questions came up, like, what is that? And if I can do all of this while this is doing something completely different, then what is this? And at first I just thought I'm odd. And then I found that there's at that time I found Buddhism, and I found 2,500 years of tradition that was exploring that. So that's where I shifted a lot of my attention into practice. So I'm very grateful to art, and I had a very similar shift, like Miko expressed. My entry to Zen practice and to Zen was through John Didalory, who's Dharma brother of Bernie. And I looked for places to train, and because I didn't know anything about Buddhism or Zen or meditation, but I knew he was an artist and he was infusing art making into the training at the monasteries, and his training programs. That was my shoe in. And I realized in a way, I just did the same thing with having this meeting on, because this is just a shoe in, right? The art is kind of like our way to just re-engage again in really the basics of not knowing and bearing witness and taking action out of that. So, so I'm feeling amused with that. I've heard several things from all of you, and I love that. First, just doing. I mean, I've heard so much activity in terms of painting and writing and upscaling and duct taping and composing and singing and clowning. For me, that's such I just say this and I feel enlivened. And I think that's a really important piece I'll be happy to explore more. I'm also really curious, I definitely was brought up on art being something that was a luxury, something that people who have time do. And now I have a very different opinion, and some of you have also mentioned that in your work, your art, whether it's through ceremony or installations or just writing and ways to connecting with people, this is a way to impact the world. I know we have one local puppeteer here in Massachusetts who've been doing annual interdependence puppet shows, parades around town, bringing awareness to gas leaks around the city. So there's this enlivenment. And another thing that I heard, which is also an interesting thing to look at, is the way I entered into art, and again also into practice and meditation, was that it was a solo practice. It's something that I did on my own. In a way, that was the refuge because I didn't need anyone. All of the stuff that was going on, I didn't need anyone. I could just do it myself. And I heard several of you mentioning collaboration, and if it involves ceremonies with others, then they're inherent part of it. So there's the personal art making, there's the collective art making. Monica mentioned, peacemaking as an art. Bernie spoke about our bearing witness practice as a collective enlightenment practice, a way of collectively shifting, and how much ceremony is part of that. And so these are just a few of the themes that I brought up. I'd love to just move on to more of a facilitated conversation around that. And I also just want to, because we're not doing like a formal practice of counsel, I do want to remind us that silence is always welcome. So it could be that, between sharings, we can just go into silence until somebody's called to share. Like Kathleen said, if you can mute your mics and just raise your hand, and then I'll call on you, and that way we can facilitate better. I'm also aware that it could be that there will be some energies towards specific projects, and maybe somebody will have an idea and that can spark its own thing. At this point, I would love to kind of keep the energy really in terms of the contemplative energy of like, what is this energy, this spirit that we're developing as artists. We will have other forums where we could actually brainstorm on projects. Like you have something and you want to hear other people and possibly see collaborations. We'll do that in another forum. This is really just for us to connect and see what comes out of this. So, so I'm taking a breath, and I invite everybody to just connect again, just with our bodies and our feelings and what we heard. Yeah. And again, Annette and Maureen, because I can see you, I just invited two of you to jump in if you want anything to say.
Yes, this is my first meeting, and I just discovered Zen Peacemakers in the last week, and I heard someone speak about the 3 tenets, and I was just wondering if you could just talk a little bit about that, or if somebody could explain what that is.
Sure. Thank you, and again, welcome. I'm glad you found it quickly and easy to just connect with us. So the 3 tenets, you know, in a way, it's kind of like a distillation of Bernie's teaching for the last 60 years. You know, he had this immense body of training in Buddhism and also a strong Jewish contemplative connection. And he really brought back those three principles. I named them before, but maybe I'll just say a few things a bit again, and maybe I'll use it through art. Maybe I'll just use the way I'm art making, and I'll just think about it that way. When I sit to draw, I bring with me a lot of things. I bring with me years of training and technique. I know exactly in my mind's eye how the drawing could come out. I can choose the composition. There's a lot of activity. That in a way is what we refer to just as knowing, is the habitual, known ways. Some of them are just completely body-based. Sometimes they're not even vocalized in words or in thoughts. Maybe sometimes the habits are completely in our bodies. It's a way that sometimes trauma is stored that way, but it's just simply in a way, the way what we bring to every given moment. So the first invitation of not knowing is to acknowledge the blank piece of paper, or as a draftsman, or if you're a composer, you have the sheets of empty sheets of paper from notes, and really just acknowledge everything that I bring to it in terms of the knowing, and practice letting that go. And there are many ways to do that. Some people do that through meditation, right? There's this very simple instructions that people say, just, you know, sit a thought, let it go, and come back to the breath. So in a way, art making is the same way, but it kind of goes to the essence of the practice of constantly invoking not knowing. Some people do it through art. Some people literally do it, just do art to access that. Some people sing, some people chant, some people pray. There are myriad ways to step out of the habitual way. So that's in terms of the not knowing. The bearing witness is a very interesting and very rich principle. It has a few components that I find in my practice. Is that one of them is, first of all, to stay with that moment. So once I already stepped in, I'm staying in it. And there's a steadfastness, there's a curiosity, but there's a non-turning away. You can probably already see how this can be applied to relationships, conversations, art, peace building, obviously. Staying with the difficult, staying with the easy, staying with the joy, staying with the suffering. Everything is included. All the voices are included. All the ingredients are included. This is just that moment of observing. And the third one, which is the taking action, is many people have different words for that. Some people call it loving action. Sometimes I call it faithful action, an action that is based on faith. But the way that Bernie Glassman coined it is really an action that simply comes out of not knowing and bearing witness, whatever that action is. It just means that it's not habitual. It's fresh, it's new, it's responding to the moment. It will maybe take into consideration a lot of components. It's not blank. It's not misinformed. There's context. In a way, what's happening in bearing witness is that you develop the context. You acknowledge the context. And again, in terms of the art making, this is where the brush stroke happens. I don't know where the brush stroke is going to go, even if I have a sense of how the portrait of the person I'm going to draw, for example. I don't necessarily know how that mark is going to fall on the paper and how it will affect other marks. And maybe the whole inkwell is going to spill on the paper. I don't know. So there's play there too. So this is just a kind of like a interesting riff on the three tenets, particularly around art. And I actually really appreciate the question. And I think this is a great just trailhead into a conversation. I'm curious to hear others. How do you see them? How do you see the three tenets, and how do you see them in your art making? Maybe before we open that up, I just want to check in with Maureen again. Just in terms of what I said, Maureen, is there anything particular you want to ask about, or are you just open to hear others? Yeah.
Yes, I'm open to hearing others as well. I sort of understand what you're saying. It's a little bit vague for me. I think that I need just to listen more to really understand these concepts. But in terms of art making, yes, I can understand what you're saying about you don't know when you first look at the blank page, you don't know what's going to come after that. And you just bear witness to the moment and what happens. And I will just let other people talk about it because I don't really know about it yet.
Great. Wonderful. Maureen, thank you so much. And again, thanks for the question. And maybe let's just hear from others and then check in again with you and see if anything was added to your appreciation or understanding. So we can go back to that silence, and if you would like to share, you can just raise your hand and I'll call on you. Yeah, Miko.
I've found several moments in my life where the three tenets have been really, really kind of like evident. And one of those moments was that when I first went to the Kalahari Desert to study the Sun Bushmen, and I had been reading about their cultures and their beliefs and everything for years, and I had a kind of like, I thought I had a good concept of what I was studying, but as I went there, I noticed that I had been kind of like attached to the idea of what their culture was like. And since the writings of their culture had been done several decades before my coming, I noticed that their culture had been evolving a lot since those books were made. Their culture just barely reminded of the stuff that had been written about them. And in that moment, I noticed that the only thing I can do in order to study them was to let go of those attachments and just to bear witness of what's going on, and just to let the people speak and just to be a listener. And in that moment, I noticed that if I would have stuck into that preconceived notion of their cultures and their behavior and beliefs and everything, I would have missed so much and probably not learned anything, and just continued writing about their culture as I had been taught, and that would have been it. But as I kind of like pulled back from that preconceived idea, all the possibilities opened up, and I learned so much. and also this intimate relationship with those people was enabled. And the actions that I decided to take from that situation was that I noticed that there was some social issues that the people were facing, and I also noticed that there's things that we can do. That after that trip we donated some money for the organizations, and they built up a new well for them, so they had clean drinking water after that. We made the city of Helsinki to pay for that well, and so, and yeah, but I think it pervades everything. And as Bernie says, that we can have goals to work for, but if we are attached to some sort of idea of the outcome and we stuck into those expectations, there's bound to be suffering. But it's a roll of a dice, and when things can go wrong, they will go wrong, and all those things that we didn't expect will happen. And it's just the tolerance of the unknown that keeps us alive. Yeah.
Maya, go ahead.
Yeah, I have. I'm studying in ZZLA in Los Angeles, and my teacher is Roshi Ekioko. So I just went there, and I was talking with my Dharma sister Mioho, because she also teaches, like me, like partly teaching and partly doing the own stuff what I'm doing. And when you teach people to sing and use their voices, when you are a vocal coach, it's like exactly the same thing like doing when you do art, because the paradox of the voice, of the human voice, is like you can never hear it like other people are hearing it, because inside your head it's always different. So you're basically, the outcome is nothing that you would expect. And so in that way, people who haven't been heard their voices a lot in the records, or haven't been in a videoed or whatever, they are terrified when they hear their voices, because they think that that's wrong, because it's so different that what sound they are used in their head, what they hear inside their heads. And I think that's a really good example of the three tenets, because it's like not knowing. You have to trust that when you're working with somebody, you have to trust that the outcome is what it is, and then you can start to work with that. But it needs a lot of trust, and you need to have a good teacher, as I have. So it's like it's based on the trust that the outcome will come as it comes, without any specific trying, and you get used to it, you got familiar with that, and then you accept it. So it's like bearing witness. And then the third tenet, like taking action, is okay, if you want to train it or if you don't want to train it. It's like really simple. When people come to me with the different kinds of problems they have with their voices or with their lives, it's kind of a psychological thing to dig out from the person, that what is the thing that she or he really needs. It's if it's like encouragement, or is it like the technical advices, or is it like the career consulting, or what is needed. And the different styles and things require a different kind of approach. But I think the teaching with the three tenets, it's marvelous, because it goes like in both ways, from the teacher to the client, and from the client to the teacher. It's the never-ending circle of the three tenets when you are teaching art, because you can also teach a craft. That's a little bit of different kind of thing, but basically you have to have a craft, and then you can do art. It's like you need to have something with which you do the thing. And sometimes it's really hard to explain people that when some people think that it's like a privileged thing that somebody can sing or somebody cannot sing. That's not true. It's the matter of training. People can train singing even though they are not knowing that they are doing it. It's like being born in a family that somebody says to you that, okay, please sing more or stop it, That's the training. That's already there. The encouragement or like lack of encouragement. So it's a very interesting way to get into people's lives and make them understand that how they've been trained in the first place. And usually people are not aware of or their training. So it's a kind of a complex but still really not so complex thing when you unwrap it with the people. So I think it's like the art of teaching is like I think it's very great, and it's really useful, these 3 tenets, to work with the people, because in that way also you come flexible. You are not stuck with your own ideas. So that's what's on my mind today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikko and Maya. I just want to highlight a couple of things that I heard that I found so important and so interesting. I think the most important one is how I heard you, Maya, speak about not knowing, and I realized how much, because we talk about it as practice, there's a sense of it's sense like we're doing it and it's active. And I heard you say something about faith and about trusting, and I really resonated with that. And for me, the aspect of surrendering as not knowing is actually becoming greater and greater. I'm not doing not knowing. If I'm doing not knowing, I'm definitely there. Is there a way for me to surrender? To just surrender, and that's where the faith and that's where the trust comes in. That's where the heart actually softens for me. Yeah, and the other piece that I heard you say is just the craft and the technique. I mean, there's time involved in developing these skills, so it's even the skill to surrender takes time to learn. I'm just realizing, I'm thinking like all of these years of meditation and intensives, they really taught me to let go, but to let go into what? Right? So now this is actually what I'm bearing witness to, which is how my life is unfolding, but it's got to be based on a technique and a craft. So that's also an interesting piece of knowing how to do a method, but then having to completely surrender. So, Yeah, Kinneret.
Hi. So, not totally sure what is coming, but just some things that are rising. First, for me, I have a really different experience of, like for me, art doesn't feel connected to craft. I feel like it wasn't something valued in my home or upbringing, so there was no emphasis or training ever given. And it's like I see in my mind's eye right now the little girl who like went into the backyard and picked wild grass and flowers and assembled them in ways that were her way of making art. And there's something, and I remember I don't even remember the first time I picked up paints or a paintbrush, but there's a particular memory I have of the first painting I ever made, and I had to really advocate to get paints and paintbrush and whatever for this. My father, I'll just share this piece, but my father, for a particular birthday, I think it was like at 13, had bought my sister like a little painting for her wall, and he was going to buy me a little painting for mine at age 13. And I remember schlepping around with him and like looking for one, and I was so picky. And finally I said to him, like, Abba, would you be offended if I asked you, like, could you take the same money that you wanted to pay for the art? Could you just buy me paint and a paintbrush so I could make my own? And what that became, and then the journey of that. So I think because a lot of that is my training ground, maybe for me, I just love playing with new media. I don't feel like I need training before I start. And I love sitting with, I'll say especially young people, but young people of every age, really the young one and everyone. I love being part of the journey of them going out and starting with no craft and finding out that like art is already inside of us, like the love of beauty, the love of beauty making, to me is just something so intuitive, so in the body. And I somehow believe everyone has that. I don't know if they want to have that. So if they don't, they don't have to. And then the other thing that's just coming is, I loved hearing you just sharing kind of more about Zen and art. And the piece that's most recent for me and feels like where I don't know that I explicitly sat with the 3 tenets in this process, but I feel like they were just coming out, was as I prepared for Jukai and worked through each of the vows with my teacher, the way that we decided to do it together was he said, like work with a vow for a week or 2, and then we'll have a phone call and talk about it. Work with a vow for a week or 2. And he was like, don't work. He knows I work too hard. So he was like, don't work, find another way to work with it than your logical mind. And something in me, it was like, how do I get inside of it and find out what this vow means for me and where are my questions? Somehow I just turned to the watercolor table and I started to break up each vow. Some of them have like 4 parts. Just broke up each vow into each part and wrote the part on the back of the paper. And I just lit a candle, lit incense, made a prayer, and then just like asked for or I didn't even ask. It was just what wants to come forth around that piece of the vow at this moment. And then this piece would come. And sometimes it included words and I would write them into the painting. And sometimes there was just layers of water and no ink, like no pigment wanted to be there. And sometimes the paper was saturated and just it tore, just different things happen. And sometimes it would ask another question. Sometimes a word or a question would come while I was painting. And then I would know that it was done, put it to the side and take another paper and write that on the back and work until the end, until there wasn't anything left. And I don't think I've brought that kind of rigor in a way and play to painting in a long time, where there was I don't know, somehow the container of the vows helped me stay focused on it. but with huge freedom. So I'm really curious about, like, I recently was reading the Ramayana and reading Psalms right now, kind of just something, letting it rise before I make it happen, but just curious, like, does the call return to, like, paint the Psalms, for example, like take a line and then just felt God a lot. I felt really a sense of deep communion while I was doing that.
Thanks, Kinneret. I really appreciate you just bringing and highlighting that word, the communion part. You know, the art as a gateway to communion, and how the spontaneity can just invoke that. Lynn, I think I saw your hand before. Yeah.
Yes. So, wow, every contribution is stirring up new inspiration. Well, what I would like to share is one experience, maybe that was pretty transformational for me, also in concerning the first tenet of not knowing, which is rather rare, especially in relationships and in everyday relationships, I'd say, for me. But what I would like to tell you is the experience that I had when I joined the Peacemakers by going to the Bearing Witness retreat in Auschwitz in 2011, and I joined there and then stayed with the Peacemakers, and there, of course, the three tenets are very present. Have been very present for me in experiencing them and having them as a guideline through this plunge. Brought me, well in touch with the energy of these three tenets. And right after that, I was invited to co-create a kind of testimony collection for the 20th anniversary of this practice. I guess, Maureen, you have heard of that retreat, right? Or am I talking about something you don't know about yet? But I think so. So the retreat in Auschwitz is well known, and you can read about it on the website and hear from others. There was the idea of some of the spirit holders to create a book about the practice and celebrate that. And so I was thinking, or my concept of not knowing was emptiness. Also surrender, also the white page, the white canvas, the blank page. And I also heard that Bernie, for example, said, I don't want people to read books before they go to Auschwitz, because I want them to be in the state of not knowing. And that was a challenge for me, of course, when others asked, would we do that book? And Bernie said, well, I actually wouldn't want that. I don't want people to read anything before they go. And my own process of deciding to do it had to do with the insight for me that as a biographer, a biographical worker, and supporting people in writing their life stories, I somehow got hold of this idea of, if we gather our stories, then this is also a kind of testimony or visualizing not knowing. Because if you have only one story, or one person saying, this is how it goes, this is how the retreat works, this is what you usually feel or experience when you go there, then you might have difficulty with not knowing. But if you gather stories, many stories, and we gather in the, and some of Hami's drawings are also in there. So we gathered a lot of pieces of art, and then I suddenly thought, not knowing is not only about emptiness, but it's also about fullness, so manyness. And so letting see, making diversity and manyness visible can also help me to see that there's not one knowing. Yeah, that was for me. I don't know if I put it in words that are kind of understandable for others, but it was a great experience for me to see not knowing also in the fullness of opinions and of stories and of experiences, and get the individuality of there, and then feeling encouraged to make my own experience, my very own experience, and knowing from all the stories that mine will be different, and I can't know from what others experience in their life how life goes. I will have to bear witness to my own life, as Eve once said. So this is a wonderful, and it has to do with this art of bookmaking, of co-creating books, and going on, feeling encouraged to do biographical work as an opposite to political statements. This is how it is, this is how it has to be. But tell your own story, and then you can see what my not knowing and your knowing, how they interact. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathleen. One thing that resonates for me with something you said that I also heard from Kinneret, that, in both cases, there was a sense of an opportunity to just reclaim and own our own agency and our own voice through art. Nobody can hold that back. So I heard that in your book, and I heard that in the little girl that was picking up flowers in the backyard. Yeah. We have about 15 more minutes, so I just want to check in with Annette or Dov or Monica or Maureen if you want to use any opportunity to share, or you just want to listen. It's completely fine. Yeah, Monica.
When I checked in and said to you or told you what is my art, then afterwards I noticed that I forgot some very vital art, that is the art of group leading. And my first decade-long training in this was from 1990 to 2000. And this is a very vital way of going with what is lively in me, and it was such a contrast to school. And I was so delighted that there is another way to train and to learn where my full person is asked to be there with all emotions and with everything you are. It is called theme-centered interaction, and after that I did more trainings in other arts, so to speak, other group leading arts. And from then I thought backwards, and I'm also interested very much in fields. I feel fields, and since the Bearing Witness retreats, I feel them, so to speak, better, if there is a better. I noticed that this improves as well, so it is an art. It is a path, so to speak. So I remember that with 16, I went with my family to Spain, and I went to school there for 3 years, and made Abitur, what is it, the final exam, and of high school, I think it is called. And it was so hard. It was so extremely hard to be in that country, to not understand the language, and to see that my peers in the classes were, of course, making fun of me, and to stand there stable or not, to feel powerless, to feel exposed, to feel really strange and very curious. I was always very curious. This saved my life, actually, I think, and it brought me through these like birthing channels into a new space. And this was a marvelous preparation for what came after that, to do this plunge, to give up, to listen to faces, to listen to gestures, to listen to smells, to tastes, and Spain is full of that. So I loved this Mediterranean country. It was my first. And after that, there came others. There I also learned French, and then I went to Italy, then this, and so on and so on. But when we talk of plunges and of not knowing and of fears, then this was a kind of initiation for me. And I'm relatively fearless. It is also a path. I have fears, but relatively, it derives from that space, because I'm drawn to refugees very easily, actually, not to homeless as well. And it's from that time. Homeless were there all the time, begging children. It was in 1968 that I was there. So Franco times. Madrid was, I was in Madrid, and the south of Spain was poor, really poor at that time. Totally another life. The Arabs were there before. So now we have the Arabs here in our country. Very interesting. Really very interesting. And I just wanted to share this to be white. I'm white. This is true. We had a little bit of money. The situation at my house was terrible. I was glad to be off as often as I could. I played theater. I sang. I played treble recorder. I did many things, not to be at home, but I had to be. I had younger sisters. So it was such a rich time, such a off, and I think to have this opportunity as a child, I was still a child, to look at your country, at your language, at your upbringing, at your aunts and uncles from outside, it is huge. It changes you totally. I'm really thankful for that, but I want also to listen a bit to others. So thank you for listening.
Great, thank you, Monica.
Yes, maybe I share something as well.
Sure, Annette.
I was very touched what Kinerat said. and it remembered me at my childhood. But there was a bit different because in my family there were a lot of real artists, and they were very, very good. And from my siblings, my brother was very talented, or is very talented. And my sister found her niche with her craftings, and so there was nothing for me, I felt. So, and what I did was, yes, okay, nice, but still now I think it's nice what I'm doing, but the others in my family are the real artists, and so I don't take myself serious. On the other hand, I'm learning. I'm very old for learning, but it's more and more that I feel it's really important for me to do the art, to spend more time with it, and I combine my art often with my spirituality, to my search. And like Kinneret said, she makes art of psalms. That's something I do as well. Or I listen to spiritual music and make art. And yes, it was very important for me to listen to you, because I'm right now very on a search, and it helped me. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Annette. Hi, Miko. Yes, I see you. I would love to check in quickly with Maureen, if you'd like, just to hear if this has been informative or in any way shifted or added to your understanding. If you have other questions.
Yes, it has been very informative and very amazing and wonderful for me to listen to everybody speak about their different experiences, and I've gotten a lot out of all of them. And I would say that for me, I have been a teacher for a long time. I've taught different things. I've taught dance, I've taught yoga. I'm now teaching English, and I've been in situations where of unknowing also, when you go into a class and you don't know, and your students may have a lot of resistance to you, and you kind of have to just let go of yourself and let yourself just be in that situation and be open to whatever happens. And I have found that in those situations, usually it becomes the best teaching. And I've heard that from some of you also, just when you let go and you just stay within yourself and trust in yourself and what you are, that some amazing things happen. So thanks. It's been great. It's been a really wonderful first meeting for me. So thank you, everybody.
Wonderful. Thanks, Maureen. Yeah, I'm glad and appreciated this was effective and additive. And I think it also just reflects a lot about the gathering of these particular individuals. We brought this energy together. Miko, yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to use this opportunity also to ask Maureen if you've been in contact with Niamh in Dublin. She's a wonderful peacemaker, also in Ireland, kind of isolated, and she organized a kind of like a day dedicated to female violence just a few weeks ago in Dublin. Sounded like a very powerful one-day bearing witness event. I was really happy that she did that. Yeah, but also I wanted to kind of ask around your opinion on political influence of art, because just a few hours ago, I happened to read a kind of like a newspaper article of an exhibition in Haifa in Israel that aroused a huge riot there. There were hundreds of people stoning the museum, and someone threw a bomb into a museum to try to explode that. And it was because a few art pieces made by my friend Jani Leinonen here from Helsinki. And there was a piece made by him, which was Ronald McDonald from the McDonald's was crucified on a cross, and that was in the museum. So that aroused this huge kind of like riot. And the bad thing is that Jani didn't want that piece to end up in Israel, because it was just a collection of his works that was in a body of work that was toured by a curator, and he tried to not to let those pieces go into Israel, but it was beyond his hands. That's why it happens. But he's terrified of his work being kind of like faced with that sort of violence.
In a way, Mikko, you're bringing up that other trailhead that I was curious about, in just in terms of impact and how it's how is our art being perceived and how it can be used or abused. And I think that's a really amazing and rich subject. I'm just aware of our time, and I appreciate everybody committing for our time. So I wouldn't want to spill over. But so first, I would maybe suggest, if Mikko, if you'd like to post that link on the All Members Room and invite everybody to read it and comment. And I will also say, and especially to Maureen and Annette, welcome. Thanks for plunging and hanging out with this group of people. And if you find this useful, and any of you also, there's at least one of these meetings almost every week on different themes or different clusters. And you can see at the end of the day, it's really all about our own self-connection and connection to others. So whether it's about art, or whether it's about entrepreneurship, or whether it's about peace building, just feel welcome to come. So that's just another opportunity to connect and continue this contact. Another thing is what's available is, all of the individuals on this group are members on the platform, so you can just find them and reach out to them if you want to continue a particular thing, or connect or follow some thread. And also from my end, I'm also constantly following and trying to gauge like what's the energy and what's the group and what can happen. And so I'm always open for feedback and ideas and how this worked for you or not. So feel free to also just reach out to me. So in our last minute, I would just love to just open the mic and everybody will have an opportunity to say goodbye. I realize I always miss a little bit of integration and closure for everyone, and because the conversation is so rich. So there you are. Thank you, everyone. Dav, thanks for joining and observing us with your
thank you, Dav.
Presence and wisdom.
Good luck with your duct tape. Love to see that.
Behind you? That's my last question, Dav. What is the craft tool behind you? Is it a shovel?
Shovel for snow.
coming in.
Is it an artist jewel? Great. So have a good evening. Thank you.
All right.
Great.
Thank
I
you
just
all.
want to bow,
Thank you.
beloved ones, and stay well
Mm.
and be inspired,
Mm.
and let us hold together, so to speak. Today somebody said, "Oh, I really worry for Germany." It was an Iranian coffee shop leader, and I said, "Me too." So
I think we should all worry about UK.
Yes.
we talked about that as well. We talked about UK. Yes.
All right. So with the spirit of playfulness and creativity and joy and connection, let's just keep moving forward with this. And thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Army.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye bye.
you.
Bye everybody.
Bye.
Bye bye.